Ever since I started gaming on PC, I have been using dual 27-inch monitors, and it's perfect for multitasking with a game open on one screen, Discord on the other, or maybe editing a video on one screen and having File Explorer with all my files open on the other screen. But I think it's time to finally test a ultra-wide monitor with my setup, and that's where this Pixio PXC348C ultra-wide gaming monitor comes in. So first things first, let's get this monitor unboxed. Now it is very nice to see this style of packaging rather than styrofoam, just because it's a lot cleaner to get everything out of the box, and also should be a little bit more environmentally friendly. Overall, it's just very nicely packaged. Everything is in its place, nothing moved around in shipping, so that is a plus start for this particular monitor. So we have our two base components. So these will be our stand. We have the base of the stand and then the actual arm that the monitor will attach to. We'll take a look at those in a little bit. We then get our external power brick for this particular monitor. It is quite a hefty power brick, coming in at 168 watts. That is one for the monitor itself, but also for power delivery to a laptop if you wanted to use the 65 watt built-in power delivery over USB-C in order to charge your actual device, as well as then display out onto the monitor. So this is quite a hefty power brick. And then we do get a set of cables inside of the box. So let's just see what we get in here. So one, we have USB-C to USB-C, one for that power delivery as well as the display out. We then just get a power cord, and we get DisplayPort to DisplayPort. Very nice for DisplayPort 1.4, so we can take full advantage of this monitor's refresh rate, which we'll get into all the details and the specs of this monitor as soon as we get it unboxed. So it's everything inside of the box, outside of the monitor itself. So let's get to the actual unboxing of the monitor. So here we go. So this is the back of our monitor. Here we have the ring for the vase mount that will get attached. We do have 4 vase mount holes if you did want to use a different style stand. And it looks like there might be an RGB accent around this outer edge. We'll have to take a look once we get it plugged in. And then we also do get this cover on the bottom of the display in order to cover all of our bottom I/O. And from an I/O perspective, we get, of course, our DC input for power. We then get 2 HDMI 2.0 ports that will be able to power this particular monitor. So 1440p at 100 hertz refresh rate, or we can plug in over DisplayPort 1.4 to get that full 144 hertz. And we also have that Type-C with 65 watt power delivery and also maxed out to that 100 hertz refresh rate. We also get a headphone jack if you did want to use the display itself, the DAC inside of the display, in order to power your headphones. So overall, some very good display inputs. You get those 2 HDMI 2.0 ports, you get the Type-C for power delivery as well as display out, and then you get the DisplayPort 1.4 to take full advantage of the 34-inch 1440p 144 hertz refresh rate of this display. So we'll take a look at all that, all the specs, everything that comes built into this monitor once we get it hooked up and connected to our RTX 4080. We'll also take a look at the on-screen display, just see how this joystick style navigation tool works with the display, how the on-screen display is set up, what options we have in order to adjust things on this monitor. So let's just do that. Let's get this thing hooked up to the 4080 and get it tested. So before we get anything set up on our existing vase mount, I wanted to just, of course, test the stand out for those that are going to use the built-in stand. So of course, it's a very simple mechanism to get this thing installed. You have 3 screws, and those 3 screws at the bottom of the stand will screw into, or at the bottom of the base will screw into the actual arm that will have the monitor attached to it. So all it does is slot right in. And then you just have these 3 screws to tighten, and that is it. You have these hooks on the bottom of the base plate that the monitor will hook up to. So these will just slot right in. That'll lock down, and we are installed. So there we go. I mean, yeah, very, very simple setup process. And this stand is extremely nice. Like, you get a lot of tilt, both up and down. You get your sideways rotation. So that's kind of your max rotation. from a base rotation standpoint, it's probably around 30 degrees either way. And then from a height adjust perspective, you can go all the way down almost to like, I don't know, 4 fingers off of your desk. And then you can go all the way up to have kind of any ergonomic setup that you think works best for your setup. And again, you got around 30 degrees of tilt to the left, around 30 degrees to the right, and then you do have plenty of upwards rotation, and then you do have a bit of downwards if you're going to use the built-in stand. So overall specs, we're looking at a 1500R curve, 3440 by 1440 VA panel, running at 144 Hertz, overclockable to 165 Hertz. We're also getting HDR capabilities with a 450 nit peak brightness, 96% DCI-P3 color coverage, along with FreeSync Premium built in, allowing for Gsync as well. So let's first take a look at the on-screen display. So in order to bring up the display menu, you just hit down on the joystick, and in display basic settings, we have brightness, contrast, black equalizer, sharpness, and DCR settings. We then get all our color settings, including gamma, color temperature, and things like that. We then get our game setup, which would be FreeSync Premium, Overdrive for Pixel Overdrive, low, medium, high, and balanced. We also have Game Assist with on-screen crosshair and FPS numbers, and then we also have low input lag mode. In advanced settings, we get our HDR settings, our overclock settings to that 165 Hertz, and then variable refresh rate control, either on or off for FreeSync Premium. We then get our input settings and then basic system setup stuff, language, RGB lights, either to cycle between RGB or to just pick red, green, or blue. So overall, a very, very simple on-screen display. You can push up to access your inputs, to the left to access your different preset settings, down for brightness, and to the right for game assist like the crosshair and FPS. So those are some very simple on-screen display stuff, but let's just double check that our FPS numbers are looking good. So right out of the box in NVIDIA Gsync settings, we're getting 144 Hertz and 1440p, but if we do want to enable that 165 Hertz, we first have to enable it within the on-screen display. So we'll set up the overclock to 165 Hertz, and that should enable it within NVIDIA control panel. So now you can see it auto defaults to 60, but we do have that 165 Hertz option. So you can see 165 Hertz, 144, 120, 100, or 60. Perfect for a lot of different setups. So if you're gaming on an Xbox Series X or S, you can use that 120 Hertz, 1440p setting. Or you could use a PC and get the full 165 Hertz. We also have Gsync out of the box set up because of FreeSync Premium. Now, if we take a look at our UFO test, very, very little ghosting on this monitor, really, really good response time, latency on this display. And let's just test out HDR real quick. I'm not expecting anything great. It's a pretty standard VA panel, but we'll enable HDR within the OSD, and that shouldn't allow us to enable it within Windows settings as well. So there you can see HDR supported. This is your base SDR view, but we'll switch over to the HDR view and then do a direct comparison between the two. So this is HDR, looks pretty good. You have your darks, your brights where they're supposed to be, and if you compare it to SDR, SDR is very much like washed out, whereas HDR is a lot darker with those subtle brights from the sun and spots in the view. And if we turn on just kind of like a base backlight and bloom level video, so you can see there is some backlight leaking or bleeding on the bottom edges and kind of the top edge as well. And there is a little bit of bloom around the white. I mean, there aren't any dimming zones or anything like that, so it's kind of expected. But let's get into some gaming and start things out with Fortnite. So we're going to test out Fortnite, F1 2022, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, just to kind of get a broad view of some FPS shooters, as well as more of a game where you want that immersive experience with F1, and it really helps to have the ultra-wide view in a game like that. I mean, this is perfect with like high FOV games, like Fortnite, where we're playing at like a 120 FOV, same with Call of Duty, same with F1, where you want that extended field of view, and it's perfect with a monitor like this. So, I mean, right out of the box, great colors out of this monitor. The game looks awesome with this setup. Super bright, super vivid, no complaints there, and it's very, very responsive with that 165 Hertz refresh rate. So I'll just let this thing play through, and you guys can kind of take a look at the gaming experience in these three different titles. So there we have it. I mean, this monitor is an awesome experience, especially if this is your first ultrawide and you're getting into more of an ultrawide gaming setup, or just an overall ultrawide monitor setup if you're using it for more like multitasking when it comes to video editing or anything else where you need a lot of extra real estate from a monitor. So like overall, I mean, the colors are great. The refresh rate and response time are awesome when it comes to gaming, and the color accuracy, everything kind of combined within this setup from Pixio is just, it's kind of mind-blowing, and especially for the price level of just 400 USD. You could spend a lot more than this monitor and get some other really high-end ultra-wide gaming setups, but it's kind of hard to beat. Like the 34-inch ultra-wide, if you were to get like 227s or even 224s at 1440p and 165 hertz, you're probably looking at closer to maybe $500 or $600. So to get this 34-inch ultra-wide for 400 with all of the capabilities and functionality out of this display, very, very much a deal I would recommend. So if you guys have any questions or comments, leave those down below. If you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, get subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.